I still remember the night it all shattered. The way the elegant dining room in Victoria's Upper East Side penthouse felt like a stage set for my humiliation. Crystal glasses clinking like accusations as she leaned forward with that perfectly composed smile, her voice slicing through the murmurs of our extended family like a scalpel. "Alex, darling," she said, her tone dripping with false sympathy, "you've always been so impractical. Dreaming of that little art gallery while the rest of us build something real. Father's money was meant for someone who could handle it, someone responsible." The table went silent, aunts and uncles shifting uncomfortably, my cousin Mark choking on his wine, and there I was, mid-30s, sharp, featured with those haunted eyes everyone always commented on, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks as she laid bare every insecurity I'd buried since childhood, painting me as the family failure who didn't deserve the inheritance we'd both been promised. She had twisted the narrative so seamlessly, claiming father's final wishes favored her because I'd abandoned the family business years ago, moving to Brooklyn to chase what she called my bohemian fantasies. While she climbed the corporate ladder in Manhattan's gleaming high-rises, her elegant suits and intimidating poise masking the cold manipulator beneath. The betrayal burned deeper than the words themselves, millions rerouted to her accounts through forged documents and undue influence during father's final foggy months of illness. Broken trust that fractured the fragile bonds we'd maintained after our parents' divorce. And in that moment, as tears stung my eyes and I pushed back from the table, excusing myself to the balcony overlooking the glittering city lights, I felt the devastation consume me, the painful realization that my own sister had stolen everything, leaving me with nothing but debt and doubt. But as I stood there, rain starting to patter against the glass, something shifted inside me, a dark, simmering resolve, and that was the moment I knew the real revenge begins now. The weeks following that dinner blurred into a haze of grief and fury. My quiet suburban home in Connecticut, a modest colonial I'd bought with savings from freelance graphic design gigs, far removed from Victoria's luxury penthouse world, becoming a sanctuary of sorts where I pored over old family documents under the dim glow of a desk lamp. The scent of rain-soaked earth drifting through cracked windows as autumn storms battered the northeast. I was Alexander Hale, 35, with angular features etched by years of quiet resentment, my dark hair streaked early with gray, eyes that carried the weight of a childhood spent in Victoria's shadow. She, the golden child, 3 years older, always elegant and connected, her emotionally cold demeanor hidden behind a facade of social grace that intimidated boardrooms and charmed investors alike. Father had built a modest empire in real estate, nothing ostentatious but enough to leave us both comfortable, a trust divided equally upon his death 6 months prior from a prolonged battle with cancer. Or, so I'd thought. The lawyer's call came one gray morning, his voice hesitant over the phone as I sipped bitter coffee in my kitchen. Discrepancies in the will, amendments signed in father's waning days that redirected the bulk to Victoria, citing my estrangement and her role as primary caregiver. She'd swooped in during his final months, moving him to her penthouse under the guise of better medical access, isolating him from me with excuses of my busy schedule, while I drove up from Connecticut every weekend, only to be turned away at the door by her security. The emotional devastation hit like a wave, crashing over me in sleepless nights where I'd pace the creaky floors, internal monologue raging. How could she do this? How had I missed the signs, the subtle manipulations that painted me as distant, unreliable? I confronted her privately at first, a tense meeting in a dimly lit cafe on the rainy streets of Midtown Manhattan, neon reflections dancing on wet pavement as taxis hissed by, her sitting across from me in a tailored black coat, expression unyielding. "Alex, father knew what he wanted," she said coolly, stirring her espresso without meeting my eyes fully. "You were always the dreamer off in your own world. He needed stability." Her words twisted the knife, but I noticed the flicker, the slight tightening of her jaw, when I mentioned verifying the signatures, and in that moment, doubt crept in for her. though she masked it with that frightening psychological poise, the kind that made underlings quiver in corporate boardrooms filled with silent power plays. The discovery came accidentally, or perhaps fatefully, during one of my visits to clear out father's remaining belongings from Victoria's penthouse. She'd allowed it grudgingly, under the supervision of her assistant, as if I might steal silverware from the sister who'd already taken everything. The place was a monument to her success, floor to ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, sleek modern furniture in shades of gray and chrome, the air scented with expensive candles masking any hint of vulnerability. While boxing old photos in father's study, a room she'd barely touched, I found his ancient digital recorder tucked in a drawer, the kind he used for dictating notes during deals. Curiosity pulled me to it, and as I pressed play in the quiet of that space, voices filled my headphones, Victoria's, low and persuasive, from months ago, coaxing father in his weakened state. "Sign here, Daddy, it's for the best. Alex doesn't need this burden, he's not like us, he can't handle the responsibility. This way, everything stays protected. With me." His murmurs of confusion, her insistent repetition, the subtle threats veiled as concern: if Alex gets half, he'll squander it. Leave you remembered as the father who enabled failure. It was all there, crystal clear, an audio confession of forgery and undue influence, captured because father, in his paranoia toward the end, had started recording conversations without telling anyone. My hands trembled as I listened, heart pounding with a mix of vindication and rage, the psychological weight lifting slightly only to be replaced by a darker purpose. This was leverage, irrefutable evidence, a hidden weapon that could dismantle her carefully constructed empire, not just the inheritance, but her reputation in those high-rise offices where she wielded influence like a blade. From there, the slow burn began, a psychological warfare waged in shadows and subtle moves, as I transformed from the devastated brother into something sharper, more calculated. I didn't rush to lawyers or confrontation. No, that would be too merciful. Instead, I started gathering more, quiet inquiries to father's old doctor about his mental state, discreet copies of medical records showing heavy sedation during those signing days, all while maintaining a facade of defeated acceptance in our infrequent family interactions. Victoria, sensing no immediate threat, grew bolder, her manipulative nature blooming as she hosted lavish gatherings in her penthouse, inviting cousins and business associates, subtly boasting about honoring father's legacy. With new investments, her elegant intimidation on full display as she networked, always one step ahead, or so she thought, but I watched from the periphery, haunted eyes observing her cold detachment. The way she dismissed staff with a glance or dismantled rivals in boardrooms I'd glimpsed during a reconciliatory lunch she insisted on, tense silences in glass-walled conference rooms high above the city, rain streaking the windows as deals were struck and alliances shifted. Internally, conflict tore at me, moral dilemmas about destroying my only sibling, the last tie to our fractured family, versus the justice I craved, the need to expose the monster behind the poise. Twists came early. A private investigator I hired uncovered Victoria's own secrets, affairs with married partners to climb ladders, embezzlement hints from company funds to fuel her lifestyle, but I held back, biding time, the recording my ace, copied and secured in multiple places. Escalation built like a storm over the city, rainy nights finding me walking neon-reflecting streets, coat collar up, mind racing through plans as thunder rumbled distant warnings. I began mind games, anonymous tips to her board about irregularities, just enough to unsettle without tracing back, watching her grow paranoid during family calls, her voice sharpening as she accused jealous outsiders. Shifting alliances emerged when our Aunt Elena, long suspicious of Victoria's rise, confided in me during a quiet suburban dinner at her home, the scent of roast chicken and old memories filling the air, as she revealed Victoria's childhood patterns of deception, stealing credit for my school projects, manipulating parents with tears. "She's always been this way, Alex," Elena whispered, eyes misty, cold as ice beneath it all. But betrayal cut both ways. I discovered Mark, our cousin, had been bought off by Victoria with a cushy job, feeding her info on my movements. The psychological depth deepened in solitary moments, like staring at the Hudson from a dim parking garage after late-night drives. Shadows playing tricks as I questioned my own descent. Was I becoming like her, this revenge consuming the artist I'd been? Danger crept in as Victoria sensed a threat, her frightening subtlety turning predatory. A chance encounter in a crowded Manhattan bar where she cornered me, voice low and intimidating. Whatever you're plotting, little brother, stop. Family protects family. Her eyes, so like mine yet devoid of warmth, bored into me, and for a moment, fear gripped. Her connections could ruin me quietly, a whispered word in the right ear leading to professional blacklisting, or worse. Hidden agendas unfolded when I anonymously sent her a snippet of the recording, no context, just her voice incriminating herself, her reaction explosive. A frantic call demanding I meet in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts. The kind with echoing emptiness and flickering fluorescent lights, rain pounding the roof as we faced off. How did you get that? She hissed, composure cracking for the first time, elegant facade crumbling into raw fury. I stood calm, victorious inwardly, revealing nothing yet, toying with the power shift. The final payoff brewed over months, culminating in another family dinner, this time at a neutral upscale restaurant in the city, dim lighting and white tablecloths setting a cinematic stage. Tension hung thick as courses arrived, Victoria triumphant in her element, announcing a major deal that would solidify her control over father's remaining assets. But as dessert came, I played my hand, subtly sliding a USB drive across the table during a lull, my voice steady despite the internal storm. Listen to this, everyone. Father's real wishes. The recording played on a portable speaker, her voice damning, confessions spilling out amid gasps and widening eyes. Victoria lunged, face pale then flushing with rage, but it was too late. Phones recorded evidence irrefutable. Chaos erupted, shouts, tears, alliances shattering as truths poured out. Her forgeries, manipulations, the depth of her betrayal. She crumbled, elegant poise shattered, reduced to pleas and denials. But the damage was done, legal wheels turning. Her empire crumbling in boardrooms where whispers turned to investigations. I stood amid the wreckage, haunted eyes meeting hers one last time. The explosive payoff, not just restitution but exposure, the sister who'd stolen everything now stripped bare. In the rainy aftermath, walking those neon streets alone,